Thank you for joining everyone and welcome. My name's Adrian Golding. I'm the VP of Customer Success at T2. Last time out, I spoke to Nikki North from New Day about scaling automation without adding more resource, which is a really useful session. And if you didn't join us, you can still catch that on LinkedIn. Today, I'm going to be talking all things hyperautomation. I guess it's a term that's been around for a few years, but it's also commonly talked about in terms of human in the loop and APIs. And I've got the pleasure of being joined by some of our network today in terms of Christian Jorgensen from Yara, Mads Berglund and Mads and Christian from Noble. And I've also got C2's co-founder, Tobias Grunders, with me. Before we do the introductions, and I'll come on to that in a minute, I just wanted to say thank you to Christian, Mads, and Martin for taking time out. They're going to tell us their personal story and their own personal experiences around hyperautomation. And I'm looking forward to the content and the discussion. And feel free to ask any questions in the channel as you wish. Christian, do you want to kick off and just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so my name is Christian Jorgensen. I work as a solution architect for robotics in Yara International. I worked in Yara for about 13 years in group accounting, and the last years in IT, actually. And prior to that, I've been working in companies like Norsk Hydro, Wilhelmsen Ship Service, and Accenture, and also in the Norwegian Army. So had some years of experience.
Superb, good to hear. Mads, do you want to intro?
Yeah, hello everybody. So my name is Mads Berglund. I'm the head of intelligent automation and advanced analytics in Noble Corporation. So we're an offshore drilling company. I've been with the company for about 12 years or so. Last 2 years, I've been heading up the automation team. I've been quite a bit around previous to that and seen a lot of the operations and bring that into that. So automation.
Excellent, thank you. And Martin?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Martin Daugaard. I'm the lead IA developer in Noble, and I've been working with automation for 7 years, 2 years with Noble, and then 5 years before that with HP pension. So most of the time working with different kind of automations, but also focus on RPA. And before that, I've been working with software engineering in general term. So yeah, lots of experience with automation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Tobias?
Yes, I'll be short. Tobias Grunders, CTO and co-founder of C2. That's it.
Great, thank you. And for those of you who caught it, I apologise for the introduction of with the names there. I should have been looking at the screen. I made some notes and I couldn't actually read my own handwriting, so apologies for the kerfuffle at the beginning. Christian, if you want, let's hand over to you, and I think you can going to talk us through what you've been doing with hyperautomation and a little bit more about your business, if that's okay.
Yeah. Maybe you can take the first slide. Thank you. So yes, I think since I've already introduced myself, you can go to the next slide. Just telling a bit about Yara. It's a chemical company with a headquarters in Oslo, and we are producing and distributing and selling nitrogen-based mineral fertilizer and other related industrial products. So it's a quite a big company in the Norwegian context with over 17,000 employees scattered around globally, with production sites in 6 continents and operations in more than 60 countries. Operations in over 60 countries and sales in about 150 countries. So next slide, please. So this is one of our processes that we have. We have currently around, I think it's around 80 processes in our robotic environment, and this is the first one that we. This is where kind of everything started. And it's a record to report process where we are extracting data from. It started off extracting data from our main core SAP solution, but has after this also kind of grown to other ERP systems that we have around globally. So it is designed to upload form data, and for people that don't know what that is, it's for example, trial balance data, so profit and loss and balance statements. It can be asset information, etc. So that we are taking from SAP and then uploading into our consolidation system to be able to report externally to the stock market. So we started off in 2017 with just a few forms as a proof of concept. And after this, it has grown more and more. And currently, we are processing over 25,000 forms annual for more than 170 reporting entities. Taking data from, we have one S4 installation, we have ECC SAP installations, and also a system used in mostly in Asia and Africa that's called Sun Systems. So the benefits for us for this, the main benefits of this automation is, of course, freeing up significant amount of time in a very critical period. It's just over a few days in the month-end reporting. So allowing the people that are working with the month-end reporting to focus on more value-adding tasks, and instead of punching the data into the system, they can use this time then to validate and verify that everything is as it should be. Another, of course, significant benefit is the quality of the data, because a robot is capable of delving deeper into the data and provide more accurate figures for the reporting. And not at least also the last one here is the standardization, so that we are ensuring that everybody is reporting and using the same approach when they are reporting the data, so that we are comparing apples against apples, so to speak. So an example can be, for example, some of these forms takes a lot of time to do manual, and some are easier. For example, a trial balance could take maybe 15 to 20 minutes if the person was to do it manually. But other, like inventory reporting that we have, can take 4 or 5 hours to complete manually for one company code. Yeah, next slide, please. So the solution that we have is entirely developed in-house using the software components that we have available. And in the center of everything is a self-service platform based on Microsoft Power Apps that allows the local reporting contacts out there in the organization to plan the execution of the reporting, and also to perform ad hoc reporting when they are doing the reporting. If they are doing any changes, they can always do a refresh and upload the data again. So the solution has above 130 users worldwide, and access to the system is also fully automated. So you see on the right here, you see maybe it's a bit small, but down to the right there is just a snapshot of the Power application that the local reporting contacts are using. Yes, next slide, please. So this is just an example flow when we are in the month-end reporting, and a local reporting contact, for example, have done some changes that affects the trial balance, for example. Then they can, in the Power App, click a button to perform a new upload. And then this data is then saved in SharePoint lists, and we are using then Azure Logic Apps to trigger the C2 connector. C2 will then kickstart an ATQ process in Blue Prism, which then will start up Alteryx, which we are using for ETL. So extract, transform, and load. Taking the data from the SAP databases, churning it, and then creating both for our BI room, creating a detailed transactional level reports for the local reporting context to use. And then also, in addition, it creates the the data, the aggregated data that is then uploaded into our consolidation system, so that the local reporting contacts are able to then use the BI room reports to drill all the way from the aggregated, very aggregated figures that we are reporting in our consolidation system down to the transactional level data in SAP. Yeah, that's all the components, and that's actually all what I had. We don't have that much time, so yeah. Anything right now, or should we take the questions in the end?
I think thank you for sharing that. Really interesting. Obviously, a big investment from the business. I've got a couple of broader questions that I think might be useful for people to hear from you on, and I'm sure Tobias has got some more technical ones. There's a huge amount of investment in that process in itself, just from the different software platforms you've got. Is the business case, or how did you go about the business case for that hyperautomation versus the RPA business case? And I guess what measures of success are you looking for from a COE perspective, but more importantly from a senior management perspective? If you could talk us through that, I'd be really interested if you could, please.
Yeah, well, how did this business case come to life? So what I can say is that this is a solution that has grown kind of organically over time. So when we started off, the solution looked totally different, and there was no interface for the users to actually do this self-service part that we now have provided for them. But what we saw as things grew and we got more and more entities onboarded, it became more and more popular. We saw that we had to do something from our side to be able to handle this increase in volume. So we had to look around in the organization to see, okay, what kind of tools do we have that can help us with this? And at that time, Alteryx was one of those tools. So that was the next step in this evolution, so to speak, going from extracting data company by company to actually taking all the data for all the companies and doing bulk loads of data, so that we could, instead of reporting one entity, we could report 70 entities during a couple of minutes. And then after that, we also saw that, we got more and more requests for people saying, okay, can you do this? Can you load this again for us? Can you load? Because we didn't have any solution for that. And that is where we, in the beginning of the Corona time, we looked into this and said, okay, now we see that Yara is investing in the Power Platform. So, okay, maybe we should see if we can use the Power Platform for this. And so it's a kind of been an organic journey, so to speak, that has been driven both by that we want to provide a better, so to say, a better tool for the organization, and also it was from our side that we didn't have capacity to kind of do all of these things manual ourselves. Then we would have to have one employee doing that. So it was a natural way to go, to actually go over and to create a self-service platform and let the people out there do their job, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, I think COVID was pretty terrible, but it did revolutionize a lot of business practice, accelerated roadmaps, I think, quite considerably. So there was some positives to come out of it. Thank you for sharing that. In terms of advice, you mentioned it was iterative. I think some companies go big bang, and that obviously is one implication for the organization. The other one is just to slowly build it incrementally. Is there anything you would do differently from what happened, or any tips and advice you'd give people embarking on this journey? Where do you start? What to look out for?
Yeah, from our side, maybe probably I'm not able to cover everything that you asked for there, but from our side, the kind of success factor for us was, that we had a close cooperation between the subject matter experts and the RPA team when we were doing the design and the development. So that was very important. And then for us, Alteryx, for example, this is a tool that provides a kind of an agile way of working. You can go in and you can do the design, you can redesign, and you can kind of very fast come up with solutions in a different way of doing it than in a traditional way of kind of working with development. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 points on that one.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Tobias, do you want to have a couple of questions? I know there's some technical stuff you wanted to dig into.
Yeah, definitely. That's my area. At first, I just want to mention a question from Kevin in terms of he's interested in seeing how Power Automate and C2 trigger functions. So the C2 platform has a set of public API endpoints, which allows you to fetch information from workflows, trigger processes, get certain statistics, or work with our human-in-loop interaction, which Mats and Martin is going to talk a bit about in a bit. But basically, the C2 Power Automate connector utilizes the public APIs we have. We have a few different public APIs now, depending on what area of the platform you're interested in utilizing. In terms of my question to you, Christian, which I know for a fact that Yara, you're great at finding the right tool for the job, as I tend to say, which takes us to hyperautomation. But in terms of the process analysis or assessment, how do you go about finding the right tool for the job? And how do you find these gaps where, oh, you know what, why don't we use Power Automate or the Power Platform for this versus other potential candidates?
Yeah, I think there, I think maybe I touched up on it on Adrian's question. It was what we did actually. We turned around and looked. Okay, what do we have? What do we have available already in our organization? It's much easier to start with something that you already have than starting the big journey of trying to acquire something new. And also, as we had both from the BI side in the BI team in Yara, we had an environment and a lot of people that had competence in Alteryx. And then also we have another team in Yara that the business application team that is working with the Power Platform and has that as their responsibility. It was a natural choice, of course, to start utilizing the products that we already had. And for our side, it was when it came to using Alteryx towards doing it in Blueprint, and that was very, very easy. Since this is not your kind of traditional RPA process, it's more a process of taking data, very, very big amounts of data, and processing it. And there, I mean, everybody that has worked in Blueprint knows that it has its limitations when it comes to that, and it's very, very hard to kind of do all the aggregations and filtering and everything that you want to do. It's possible to do it in Blueprint, but it is very, very time-consuming and requires a lot of configuration. While in Alteryx, that is drag and drop and very easy to do. But of course, we had to then design the way how could we have Blueprint work together with Alteryx in a good way, and that was of course challenging. But when we kind of had solved that for one process, we created a generic approach. So every time we developed a new kind of form to upload, it was all about doing the Alteryx part, and then configure it in our setup, and we were ready to go. So it was very fast to kind of include new processes or new forms to upload.
Great. So trying to pick your brain just a bit on that one again. But so look at, take for example this process now of do you see any other ways you can improve it? Do you have a few things in plan for that process, Christian?
Yeah, from our
have you reached your limit?
yeah, you just have to stop me if you. But for the what we see is that this is I mean, we have a pretty small operation. We have 5 Blueprint licenses and 6 runtime resources that can utilize them. Of course, everything is fully virtualized in Azure, but still we see that we have a challenge in this very, very short amount of time. And I mean, I think that during 2 days we are handling over 1,000 ad hoc requests for people clicking that button to have things to execute stuff, and that comes in addition to all the other processes that we have running. So it's a very it's a bottleneck. This is our kind of main bottleneck process. So everything that we can do to make it more efficient can mean a lot. So what we have done a lot already, bulking jobs, doing a lot of stuff to kind of make it as smooth as possible. But we still see that in some times in the day, during in the morning of the second working day, and in 3-4 o'clock, when people are really hitting the buttons and there is a lot of things happening, we see that there is the time that they have to expect that it takes some time before we do the upload. From they click the button to everything is done. We see that, I mean, to be able to kind of now to take it to the next step, for us, we are waiting impatiently for the C2 universal queues. Being able to kind of infuse these requests from the user directly into a work queue. Doing that, kind of getting that done in the beginning of our process, then we will be able to bulk things later in the process, so that it will have a dramatic effect on the efficiency of everything. So we are waiting for that, hoping that we can do that instead of buying new Bluepixel licenses.
Great. Hope to surprise you there.
Not much longer, Christian. It's coming. Don't worry.
Good to hear.
Anything else, Tobias, or should we let over to Mads and Martin and we can hear their story?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Mads, I'll pass over to you. I know you're going to tag team it with Martin.
All righty. Thank you so much. I guess just a disclaimer in the beginning. Obviously, we are representing Noble, but any opinions and statements made are that of our own, right? All right, and with the click wrapper out of the way, so just quickly about Noble Corporation. So our roots go back to 1921. We are an offshore drilling company, so we're drilling oil wells. We have about 3,800 employees, plus an additional 2,000 who engage through labor contractors agencies. So roughly 20% are working onshore, and the remaining majority, 80%, working onshore or offshore on our drilling rigs. We have 32 modern drilling rigs operating across the world. So drill ships, as depicted here, as well as jackups and semi-submersibles. And with our, you would say, global presence, also means that we have local presence in terms of onshore support and local offices, and also local suppliers, etc. Right, with invoice and so on, as will be relevant in a short while. Alrighty, let's go to the next slide, please. Alrighty, so as mentioned, I'm heading up Intelligent Automation. I brought along Martin, who is our lead IA developer. The setup now is we have a couple of people here in Denmark, in Copenhagen, as well as a crack team of developers and business analysts sitting in Manila, in the Philippines. We have based our automation platform on Blue Prism, and then everything is set up with Azure infrastructure. On top of that, we have the C2 platform orchestrating and running our robots. So we have about 100 of those. We have been doing RPA since 2017 as a company, and Martin and I have been on board for about 2 years or so. So with the C2 application we installed last year, so I think we freed up about 75% of our support demand from developers, and have been able to spend that a little bit more say value creating than just keeping the wheels turning. So the you would say the big thing that we have gone into or working with is AP automation, invoice handling. So basically, we have a good chunk over 100,000 invoices per year, and a good mix between PO and non-PO invoices. And for the uninitiated, a PO invoice, basically you have all the details up front in your ERP system, and you just need to check that the invoice coming in is correct and numbers are correct, and you can then process that for authorization. For all the non-PO invoices, you need to take a different path. You need to check that things are correct, and it's a valid invoice that we want to pay, that we actually ask for what we're paying for. And as such, it creates a lot of different pathways. So obviously, it adds efficiency, but it also adds precision to the process, right? And payment on time and stuff like that. So for this the happy flow here, when we looked at it, is basically you have the PO coming in, and you can check that everything is looking all right, and then we can process and shove it into our ERP system. But there is a number of different pathways where it's definitely not a happy flow, and where you need to have a specialist help out with details. So what we're talking about here is that we need to have a human in the loop, basically, to check that things are right or figure out what's wrong, contact the supplier to have it revised or have it updated and set in correctly in the system and so on. So we basically we had two options looking at this. So we were looking at either Interact from Blue Prism or the C2 platform. And as mentioned, we were already running with the platform from C2 for orchestration. And as such, we're evaluating which ones would suit us better. And you say there are two sort of big contributors there to go with the C2 option, as evident from our presence here, is where we went. So one is it's already part of the package, if you will. We don't need additional license for running it, so it makes for an easy business case, at least in terms of licensing. And then secondly, also we are using C2 to expose sort of information to our business owners. And we wanted to have one platform where they would both be able to see status for robots, but also be able to interact with them. So, and then diving into it, we quickly figured out that we needed not just an ability to sort of ask a question or something from our specialist, but actually interact with them in a more dynamic way. So that being using information from the invoice to figure out what would make sense. So I've brought Martin along to dive into sort of the technical setup of the solution and how we have strung together some of these technologies to actually exploit the options here in human in loop solution. So I guess with that, over to Martin, and then the next slide, please.
Thank you, Mads. Yes, so here we're looking at the solution architecture of one of our automations. So as you see here, there will be an email input with an invoice. We call that the AP project, where we use that to automate the PO handling in the ERP system. So the ERP is the one on top here. So we use Blue Prism as well for the RPA tool, and we can get information with Blue Prism like we normally do. And then we use Decipher IDP, which is the intelligent document processing tool that they provide. So that will fetch the invoice from the email and use OCR to extract the text from the invoice, and will use machine learning to improve itself on how to get information out of the invoices. As you can imagine, there are quite a lot, as Mads just said. So a lot of different kind of invoice documents. So as you see here, once that information is extracted, we will determine if it's a non-PO invoice or if it's a PO invoice. So in the case where it's a PO invoice, it'll follow the happy flow, as Mads mentioned. So for some of that, the cases here will be completely automated, and that just passes through Blue Prism, and then the text and the information from the invoice is passed into the ERP system like you would normally do with automations. So as a lot of you guys probably know, RPA is automation of routine-based processes. So in the cases where you know what you're looking for and it's a routine process where that can just be passed on. But then with some of the invoices, there will be missing details. So we'll have wrong details, and that's what you see here in the flow as well. So and that is where it's very neat to have C2 human in the loop. It's called robot interaction. And what we use that for is we can build web forms in the C2 interface, and then we can ask a business user to provide the missing details. It could be the PO number could be missing, and then the business owner will input that to the form and click submit. As you see, you can always handle things manually, like normally, but with this solution you can use C2 to submit the missing information, and you can click the button, and then Blue Prism can complete that process or automate it. So that's very neat, and it enables us to pick up the exceptions, so to speak. So yeah, and then I would like to talk about the non-POs. So as you see, if it's not a PO, it could be a new type of invoice. It'll still extract information, and then we can use Blue Prism Decision, which is a machine learning tool, to come with different kind of suggestions. So that could be a suggestion for a posting account, and of course that will need to be trained by the IA team. Yeah, so as you could probably imagine, suggestions is not quite good enough. So we will need humans to verify that the details are correct. And here again, C2 is quite good at that. So you can have a form again where you can accept or reject the suggestion that was provided for the machine learning model. And in the case where it's good, you will accept it, and then Blue Prism will automate that and put it back into the ERP system. And again, you can also handle these manually, like you always can with these kind of tools. So, and then I would like to talk a bit about the ML model prediction and the feedback loop that we also use C2 for. So all the cases where it's wrong, so the decision that it's the suggestion that it came up with is wrong, the business user will then reject it. So yeah, so that leaves us with a list of rejected cases that we can have the IA team go back into decision and train that so that it's correct. Yes, and talking about ML, it might also be good to describe what yeah. So when you're talking about machine learning, you have ML ops, and it's quite common to talk about data drift. So that's the thing when you train it on a static data set, and then as data passes through the machine learning, then it might get out of scope, and it's not suggesting the right things. So we call that data drift. A way to solve that is having an app on top where you can. Yeah, so that's also what we use C2 for. Basically, you can use that. So you need to maintain the ML so that it's doing the right thing. Yeah, and actually you can apply that to a lot. So if you want to implement new AI features, you can also use this functionality. So basically, we'll just be replacing the present decision box here with something else. So as you can imagine with AI features, there might be cases where you need a human to verify that what have been generated by AI, whatever it is okay to be processed or made back into any system. So you can have the the same process with an accept or reject suggestions. Yeah, and I would like to highlight how dynamic I find human in the loop in or robot interact in C2. So basically, you can have a lot of different flows where you build the forms in Blue Prism, and it's basically just actions where you build it, and you can have logic. So you build different forms for different kind of cases. So that's very neat. Yes.
Yeah, Mads, Martin, thank you for that, and great level of detail in terms of the final slide. Tobias, I think you had a couple of technical questions come in, didn't you, that you're going to tackle?
Yeah, we have a few different ones actually. You can see one on the screen there now from Clement. You see it, Mats?
Yeah. So just I guess everyone can see, but yeah. So we have about 100 robots, and we had roughly 2 people, FTE more or less, doing support on and off. It depends a little bit on where we are in the calendar years, obviously for in a month, in the year, so on, right? And these things. But we went from 2 people to, I guess, not even half an FTE for support. So quite a dramatic upside, as well as also a reduction in say usage of licenses in Blue Prism. Not because of you could say less work, but just in a better scheduling, right? And less sort of space in between them, or buffer time, right? Yeah.
Mads,
Great. And we have a question from Michael as well. I think it's quite related.
Yeah. No, so we have 100 processes. We have about 10 robots running those. So.
Mads, just on the support savings, has that allowed you to put resources elsewhere?
It obviously opens up for more development, right, with the same workforce. And as such, you can see with this one is obviously a point where we've been able to invest resources on developing this stuff, right? But we have been, as mentioned, through a merger, right? So there's been a lot of opportunity to use automation. Some things for sort of a longer running things, and other for one-offs things here and there. So it has helped us in delivering on that, obviously, but also opening up for further development. So I mean, the more you spend on support, the less you get done, right? If you will, you deliver on what you promised, but you don't expand your portfolio. No.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the human in the loop, then, have you got more runway to look at that across the business, or are you kind of at a good place?
For now, we're focused here. I can see a lot of different opportunities. So basically, whenever you want to have eyes on, and I mean, if we look at the process here, if you take it to the extreme, I guess you can get to a point where it will be very reduced, right, using machine learning and so on, if you want to. Mm-hmm. There's obviously a risk management part of that, where how much do you want to take on it with machine learning and so on. But I would say it's I guess it's up to the imagination, right, what you can take it to.
Yeah, absolutely. Tobias, I think you want to dig into a couple of the sort of exceptions.
Yes. Yeah. Regarding machine learning, I was actually thinking, what's your median confidence score on the document processing you have?
So right now, I think we're about 85% or so. So it's not top of the class, but I would say one thing is sort of just handling the happy flow and that part. But just I think there's a little bit on the slide about a feedback loop for the model, but there's also a very important part, which is a feedback loop from the end result of the process, right? Wherever we end up, there is likely a human in the loop. There's some information added to the process, and we can use that in our optimization process to figure out what's not working and sort of get closer to the full potential, right? So yes, you always need to be able to read your invoices, and we're working on improving that continuously. But also remembering that human in the loop actually provides you with good insights into where things are not working process-wise.
Awesome. Have you been looking at potentially using different human-in-the-loop forms or interacting with your users differently depending on the PO amount and confidence score, for example?
Yeah. So one of the thoughts we've had has been sort of you read what's in the invoice, and you could say, let's use a model to come up with an idea of where this should what account should it be coded on if it's a non-PO, for example. You could say, well, based on the history and the model, we say it ought to be this account, for example. And then you could determine, okay, if you are above or below a certain value threshold or number of invoices from the same vendor or whatever it might be, you would just put it in automatically. Otherwise, you will divert to a human to take a decision on whether to put it in as is or not. You could even go so far as to say we don't actually want to look into sort of classifying. So we just want to use our models to come with a bet on should this invoice go in or not, right? And then yes, use a value if that's what we're after, right? But we can look at vendor and stuff like that, right? Where we build out the model to a level where we are quite certain that this is just get it in, and there is still an approval, right, by the receiver of the goods in the end. So it's not like we're circumventing everything, but it's you could decide to set that threshold in terms of value at some point, right? And do it dynamically.
Hey, very interesting. I mean, there is many options to move forward.
Yeah.
I see we have one question from a LinkedIn user as well. It's two parts. Why do you use machine learning rather than other technologies such as regex?
So for the machine learning, so basically our thinking here is that we are taking the invoices that we have with the output from the read. We can basically read our history, right? And we can read our history as well from the ERP system and make sure that we know what's right and wrong. If we're using this model, it's a bit like a LLM or whatever, right? That you might not know exactly how it's making its decisions, right? But you're training on say this is how it should look, right? And this is what should come out. If you're using regex or similar, right? Then you need to know exactly what you're looking for. We're still using regex to train it, right? And to find details in it in the model. But the following you can add on, I guess, machine learning to
if
enhance.
I can also mess. Yeah, I also think that it's not, you don't have to choose machine learning or regex. They complement each other. I also had talked with one of our senior data scientists, and he said exactly the same, right? So that actually that it
seems like just having a bit of trouble.
down that complements. So we do need to apply regex to extract. Thank you.
Christian,
we're losing you a bit there, Martin, but
Yeah.
as you're saying, these technologies are potentially complementary and you can use one or another to enhance each other. So definitely they're great. There is also a comment that do you use human-in-loop in any way to train your machine learning model?
We say not per design yet, or not per completed solution yet, but it is on our sort of design that is what we want to do, right? And how exactly we go about it. Well, I mean, one thing is that you continuously improve your model for reading the invoices. The other part is figuring out what's wrong when you do things, right? What elements are wrong. And there we'll use the output as well for the human-in-the-loop solution to feedback.
Great.
So I don't know, we didn't touch too much on it, but just want to mention one detail on the human-in-the-loop solution. It's so on the platform, right? It's actually a dynamic form, so you can fill in what you want to do, and it can be as short as figuring out, okay, this ought to be a PO invoice. Let's just send it to the vendor and ask for that to be put on the invoice. It can preform the email and just let you and ask you, do you want to send this to the supplier? And then you're basically done. But it can also be we have played around with actually reading the invoice lines and whenever there's and showing the matches in the human in the loop form, and then where it were in doubt, it would show that, right? So you can build it as you want it with the details that you need, and it works quite well, I would say, from our point of view.
I'm glad to hear. So with that, is there? This is probably an open question for both Mats, Martin, and Christian. Is there anything C2 could do on their side to extend the potential targets of business processes, features we could provide in the future for you guys, or do you have anything in mind?
I'm glad you asked, right? I guess we have the right person for the backlog here. So of features. No, so I think our one feature that would be nice to have is adding attachment in the forms, right? So obviously invoices are coming in as attachments, and we would like to be able to easily show those. So right now what we're doing is putting in a link to our SharePoint site, right? So you can open up, still have access controls and so on there. But it would be nice to do it directly and ease it a little bit for the review.
Awesome.
It's nice. Have you got that?
Yeah, unfortunately. So, but great input. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the input, and thank you for sharing. Have you any final comments from the three of you? Any last hints and tips that you want to share with the listeners today? I think we've covered quite a lot, so not necessarily, but.
Yeah, well, maybe one thing I can maybe stress a bit extra is from our side when it comes to using the C2, when it comes to the value that it provides us, apart from the process we have explained about today, is one of the really powerful things is the capability of setting SLAs on the different processes that you have. So for every process that we put into our system, we always question the business. I mean, does it really have to be completed by 30 minutes, or is it okay if we can wait 2 hours with this one? Because everything you can push out in time makes the system then capable then to prioritize the tasks to be able to meet all the SLAs. And this is is really a great benefit of the tool from from our side, our experience.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I think, using C2 or not, I think challenging the business around what their perception of when they need it is always valuable, because some of this stuff is just historical, and actually when you really dig into it, it isn't quite the need that is perceived. So it's a great discussion to have with the business owners, and as you say, with C2 and SLAs, you can really start to take advantage of that and get more leverage. Yeah. Hang on, I've just got a question here. Oh, there we go.
There we have it. I think this applies to both Yara and Noble, but generally, how many people have access to human in the loop in the C2 platform, and how do you manage access for different people or departments?
Martin, do you want to take that one? Oh, if we lost Martin, I think he's frozen.
Let's go to Mats.
Yeah, let's go to Mats.
I think Martin is back.
Yeah.
Oh, you back? Well,
I'm back, yes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Martin, do you see this question on the screen?
Oh, yeah. So the way we set that up is we decide who from the business we let in. So we do hand out users that we create, and it's quite neat that you can create different dashboards for different departments. Obviously, finance, HR, they're looking for different things and different dashboards. You can customize that very well, and there are a lot of roles that you can hand out. So basically, you can customize that to your needs in your organization, right? But we do invite the business inside. So they have one view where they have the dashboards and the robot interact the same place.
Great.
Does that answer the question, I hope?
Yeah, I guess you can control it either using direct connections, or you can use Active Directory groups, right, to control who sees what.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah, and you can use Asia AD if you want that.
Excellent. Right.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you, Mads, Martin, Christian, for sharing. Always really interesting to find out what other people are up to, and just for being candid about what you're doing, how you've gone about it, and what success has been. Really appreciate that, and hopefully the listeners have got stuff from that as well, especially in terms of the questions. Tobias, thank you for joining. If anyone wants to follow up, we're going to pop up a slide in a minute with contact details. So please feel free to get in touch if you've got any more questions. And we'll be hosting another one soon. So look out on LinkedIn. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the session and taken some learnings away. Thank you.
Thank you so
thank you very
much.
much.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.